Is Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, more interested in his real estate empire than in fielding a competitive football team? The team's abysmal performance suggests the answer might be a painful yes, and it's time for a serious conversation. Real estate magnate Stephen Ross has been making headlines with his ventures, most recently inching closer to acquiring the 208-room Ben Hotel and the Clark Lake office building in West Palm Beach. This would further solidify his impressive portfolio of 3.8 million square feet of office, retail, and residential space. But while his real estate holdings flourish, his football team continues to flounder, mired in a seemingly endless cycle of mediocrity. On the other hand, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, seems to be neglecting his duties. Another week has passed, and the Dolphins remain stuck in a rut. The team's embarrassing 31-6 loss to the Cleveland Browns, another struggling 1-5 team, was a stark reminder of the 16 years of incompetence under Ross's watch. The loss dropped Miami to 1-6, all but guaranteeing the continuation of their league-worst 25-year playoff win drought. We can dissect the issues for hours. Chris Grier's questionable draft picks, the constant stream of penalties, and undisciplined play. Mike McDaniel struggles to maximize a roster that, while flawed, shouldn't be performing this poorly. And let's not forget, McDaniel's road record as Dolphins coach is a concerning 10-21. But here's where it gets controversial. Is it really all on the coach and the GM? Or is there a bigger problem at play? Ultimately, the core issue boils down to this. Until the owner starts prioritizing the success of his football team with the same fervor he dedicates to his real estate ventures, nothing will change. It's a harsh truth, but one that Dolphins fans have been forced to confront for far too long. Now, I'm generally hesitant to suggest an owner should sell their team. It feels like a drastic measure. But Ross, at 85 years old, is making it increasingly difficult to defend him. Being an owner carries a significant responsibility. You are a custodian of a public trust, a guardian of a franchise's legacy. And this is the part most people miss. It's not just about wins and losses, it's about upholding the tradition and the pride of the team and its fans. Ross has arguably failed to uphold that trust. He's consistently overlooked mistakes by his general manager and coach, made questionable hiring decisions, and embroiled the franchise in controversy, including a lawsuit alleging he offered Brian Flores money to intentionally lose games, allegations Ross denies. Furthermore, the team lost draft picks for tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. He gets credit for investing in a state-of-the-art facility, but as the saying goes, that's like complimenting the chef on the Titanic. So what can Dolphins fans do? The most direct course of action is to hit Ross where it hurts, the wallet. Don't renew season tickets. Stop attending games. To be clear, I'm not advocating for a boycott. That's not my place. But history shows that when a fan base collectively withholds its financial support or actively protests, owners tend to listen. This is a business, after all, and dwindling revenue streams get noticed quickly. Ross is now at a crossroads. Before the frustration boils over, before fans start showing up to the stadium with figurative or literal pitchforks, he needs to make a decision. He has three potential paths forward. Sell the team, he could get his affairs in order, and sell the team to a serious contender like hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin, who has reportedly pursued the team twice before and might be willing to offer $10 billion for the team and Hard Rock Stadium. This would provide a clean break and allow someone with potentially more passion for football to take the reins. Delegate authority. He could entrust the day-to-day operations of the team to his daughters, Jennifer and Kim's husband, Daniel Silman, an experienced sports entrepreneur. They are, after all, next in line in Ross's succession plan. This would allow Ross to focus on his real estate empire while ensuring the team is in capable hands. Take direct action. He could have a long, hard look in the mirror and acknowledge that he has failed the fan base and the franchise. He could then commit to making the tough, necessary decisions that have been glaringly obvious to everyone else for quite some time. This path requires humility and a willingness to admit past mistakes, but it could ultimately be the most rewarding. Those tough decisions must start with the removal of General Manager Chris Grier and a complete overhaul of the front office. Why is Ross continuing to send Grier to evaluate college players, like in Columbia, South Carolina, this weekend? Grier's track record speaks for itself. His decisions should have no influence on next year's draft after a decade of largely unsuccessful moves. As previously reported, Ross should have already begun the process of hiring a respected individual to lead the search for a new director of football operations. He should also task team president Tom Garfinkel with conducting a similar search. Ideally, this new director of football operations would be responsible for selecting the next head coach, ensuring a unified vision and strategy. But here's where it gets even more controversial. What if Ross decides to move on from Mike McDaniel? After Sunday's listless performance marked by penalties, mistakes, and a general lack of preparedness and enthusiasm, it might be justified. McDaniel's record in his last 31 games is now a concerning 11-20. While Grier hasn't provided McDaniel with a wealth of talent this season, the team's performance on the field should have been far more competitive, and that responsibility ultimately falls on McDaniel and his coaching staff. The same can be said for the embarrassing 33-8 loss to the Colts earlier in the season. Why do mistakes rarely result in consequences within this coaching staff? Why aren't players benched, even for a single play or series, after committing senseless penalties? That's a direct reflection of McDaniel's leadership. Sometimes, teams simply stop responding to a coach when the results don't improve. Players often need a fresh perspective, someone who inspires passion, instills a healthy fear of consequences, and demonstrates a clear understanding of what it takes to win. McDaniel, who seems to be struggling to inspire or create that sense of accountability, may have reached that point. This is unfortunate, as he's undoubtedly a good person and deserves credit for salvaging Tua Tagovailoa's career. Ultimately, McDaniel's downfall will likely be attributed to his poor personnel input on offense. He arguably shouldn't have advocated for Tagovailoa's massive $212 million extension, Grier's personnel mistakes on defense, a series of injuries, and an inability to maximize the offensive talent against strong teams in 2023 and 2024. That the diminutive McDaniel didn't necessarily fit the image of a traditional NFL head coach hardly mattered when his team was putting up 70 points against Denver. But Teddy Bruschi's comments on ESPN's pregame show on Sunday highlighted a growing sentiment. Is that the one you want leading your franchise? Bruschi questioned, referring to McDaniel. If I had to see that man in front of me, I don't know how I would be able to play in that locker. The man I want to lead me, that would take you to a championship, is the exact opposite of that man in Miami. It doesn't help McDaniel's case that the team's recurring problems remain unresolved. The pre-snap penalties, the unnecessary roughness penalties, the special teams miscues, the poor tackling, and the team's inability to counter defenses that employ too high safeties. But here's the thing. Simply firing the coach won't solve the underlying issues. Unless Ross addresses the problems in the front office, there's no path to sustained success. As for Tagovailoa, his performance on Sunday was an utter embarrassment, completely unacceptable for a quarterback earning $53 million. It's becoming increasingly apparent that he can only lead a team to the playoffs if everything around him is perfect, if he's surrounded by elite players at nearly every position. And in today's salary cap environment, that's simply not realistic. Before Sunday's game, he was tied for third in the league in interceptions and ranked 21st in passer rating. After his disastrous performance against the Browns, where he completed just 12 of 23 passes for 100 yards, threw 3 interceptions, and posted a dismal 24.1 passer rating, his statistics will undoubtedly plummet. His inability to recognize and react to blitzes was particularly concerning, though the linemen and backs also bear some responsibility for those failures. Moving on from Tagovailoa after this season would have significant salary cap implications, as detailed in this article. Ultimately, that decision, along with many others, will likely be left to the new management team and coach if Ross can temporarily shift his focus from transforming West Palm Beach into a real estate paradise and dedicate himself to fixing the franchise he has repeatedly let down. McDaniel's post-game comments, in which he stated that everything is on the table and that lineup changes are possible, offer a glimmer of hope. But actions speak louder than words. So, Dolphins fans, what do you think? Is it time for Ross to sell the team? Should McDaniel be given more time, or is a coaching change necessary? And what about Tagovailoa? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get this conversation started.